You have almost certainly heard the phrase, if you don't love yourself, no one will ever love you. And like me, you might find that phrase to be utter garbage. There's some truth in it, and there is an intention in it that is applicable. But the saying itself, the phrase itself, is just nonsense. Because ultimately, you've probably reached a point in your life where you maybe don't love yourself, but you have had other people love you at some point in your life. A partner, a parent, a sibling, a best friend. And as a result, you've automatically got external evidence that disproves this sentence. So I want to give you two alternate ways of looking at that, and then ultimately what you can do about it. The first version is, if you don't love yourself, you will never truly accept the love from other people. And the second version is, if you don't love yourself, then it doesn't matter who else does. But if you do love yourself, it doesn't matter who else does. And ultimately, both of these statements say the same thing. So pick the one that resonates with you the most, because both of them say that loving yourself is the most important thing, is the piece in the puzzle that will make everything else click. Because it's not that the other people will not love you, will not show you love, will not give you love. It is the fact that that love will never be enough if you are unable to love yourself. That love will never make you fully feel loved. And ultimately, that's the bit that matters. The way I look at love is very similar to the way that I look at self-esteem. In that, when we constantly look to others, when we constantly try and get our compliments and our esteem from other people, that isn't self-esteem, that is esteem. And what it works like is a temporary measure that is there during the period that it is being given. So let's say someone gives you a compliment. The self-esteem or the esteem raises a small amount, and that might last during the compliment and for a little bit of time afterwards. But ultimately, what happens if we do not love ourselves, if we do not have self-esteem, is then it dips right the way back down, and we go back to being dependent on waiting for the next compliment. You know that expression that the biggest relationship you'll ever have is the one that you have with yourself? You know, what this means is that you are in your own head 100% of the time. The people that are giving you esteem and self-esteem are only around a small portion of the time and are only giving those compliments or showing their affection, showing their love, a small portion of that time. The rest of the time, the relationship is all up here. You are in your own head 24/7. And this is why it's so important that you learn to love yourself, you learn to give yourself self-esteem. Because let's just say that every compliment a person gives you pays into your self-esteem bank balance. But every insult that you give yourself, every self-deprecating comment, every time you put yourself down, takes out of that self-esteem bank balance. You might be getting one compliment a day if you're tremendously lucky. You might be getting multiple compliments a day, but if you're getting a barrage of insults, a barrage of these negative thoughts and feelings from yourself in your own head, it's going to leave you constantly self-esteem and self-love bankrupt. And that's where we lie. Even in the strongest relationships. Let's go back to this phrase I said at the beginning, that if you don't love yourself, you will never fully feel the love from somebody else. That is true because of this. That is true because even if you were lucky enough to have the most wonderful, loving, affectionate, complimentary partner in the whole world, they are still only contributing to you a portion compared to what you are contributing to yourself. So this is why it's so important that we learn to love ourselves. And it is a learn to love ourselves. It's not just a switch goes on and there we have it. We can have these moments where the switch goes on and that is when we start to love ourselves. But it's going to take practice. And that is not a failing in you. You might hear me in certain videos say that all of these statements that people make on little quippy posts on Pinterest or Instagram, they are there to try and change your life in an instant. But what they are doing is they are essentially creating the spark for you to start this process. Negativity comes naturally. You've practiced it a lot throughout your life. You've put yourself down a lot throughout your life. Positivity takes practice. So the process of starting to love yourself might just mean saying, I like myself. It might start even smaller than that by saying, I like this about myself, or perhaps even, I like the fact that I am trying. I like the fact that I am trying to be a good person. Even if you can't label yourself as a good person yet, you can be trying, you can be working towards that. And that is something worth liking. This will feel completely unnatural at first, and that is normal because think of it like speaking two different languages. You have spoken to yourself in the language of self-loathing probably since you were about 7 years old. Yeah, for me, that would be 37 years ago. That's a lot of time for this inner critic to get practicing. Now, I started addressing my inner critic about 10 to 12 years ago, tentatively 12 years ago, properly 10 years ago. And so now my inner coach, my inner loving parent, because I do look at this as being a father to myself, my inner loving parent has got 12 years, 10 to 12 years of practice. He's still not put in the same number of hours as the inner critic had done, but he shows up more frequently. He shows up more than the critic does now. The critic, yes, he still shows up from time to time. And that's the current stage of my journey. I'm learning to let that go, to let the critic have his say and not have to listen to it. Because that's probably the best thing that we can end on for this message, is that the voices in your head, the opinions in your head are just that. They are opinions, they are not facts. And it is down to us to get the coach speaking some more. And then it's down to us which opinion we listen to. Like two friends sat opposite us in a cafe. We don't have to agree with everything they both say. We can choose which one we align with. We can choose which one we want to believe. We can choose which one suits us the most at this point in our life. And believe me, at this point in your life, getting that coach speaking and listening to what they have to say is the best strategy for you to begin your journey of self-love and self-esteem.